Hey everybody, winding down Mental Health Awareness Month, and I said in my last post that I would take on three of the biggest myths about mental health, mental illness treatment. So, the second big myth first one we took on was the myth of diagnosis. You can go back in my Facebook feed if you want to see that one. Um, the second one is the myth of the magic therapy. So this idea that the latest greatest therapy is better than what therapy has been around before, and entwined in this is this idea of what actually predicts outcome, because there seems to be a lot of folks out there, providers as well as potential clients, that think that the therapy is the magic that makes things change, and that is simply not true. So if we take a look at the variables that can be looked at to drive therapeutic change, if we take a look at the variables that can look at driving therapeutic change, the one that drives the most therapeutic change at 40%. So if we take all the variables, we'll add up to 100% to account for all the change in therapy. The biggest factor that drives therapeutic change is what the client brings in. 40% of change is what the client brings in, or in other words, the extra therapeutic things that the client has to either use as resources or has as potential obstacles. So things like housing, finances, support network, all those things, physical health, history, all the things that come in with the client to begin with, that accounts for 40% of the therapeutic change. The next variable, accounting for 30% of therapeutic change, is do the client and the therapist get along? Do they like each other? Do they have a good, trusting relationship? So 40% is what the client brings in. 30% is just the relationship. Do you like the person you're working with, and do you trust them? And then 15% is, does the client expect things to get better? Do they have a sense of hope and optimism about this work? So that's 15%. So now we're already up to 85%. So that accounts for 85% of change. And then 15% is tools, tips, strategies, the model, the techniques. And so when you see these like arguments about does EMDR, is that the most effective treatment, or dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, or ACT, are those the most effective? That's all arguing over a very small percentage of what actually drives therapeutic change. The biggest things that drive therapeutic change is whatever the client brings in. Do they like you as a therapist, or do you like the therapist? Do you get along with them? Do you trust them? And then do you have some kind of hope and optimism about what's going to happen here in therapy? That's 85% of what's going to account for therapeutic change. And then the rest of it is just window trimmings. It really doesn't matter what kind of therapy you do. As long as it's a credible therapy, if you have those other three factors in place, chances are you're going to do well in therapy. So there is no magic therapy. The latest and greatest therapy is no better than other well-established therapies. It's just whether or not you feel comfortable with it, and you feel comfortable with the person that you're working with. So I hope that's interesting or helpful for you. I hope you're all doing well. I've got one more of these to wrap up the month. And just a reminder that for those of you that are interested in improving your emotional health or psychological fitness, please visit www.peaceable.com. I'll put the link down below. I would love for you to be part of our community. Thanks so much. Hope you're well. Bye.